These steps I've listed here are, in my opinion, the most optimal order of investing your money once you've been paid. Now, everything on this list can be broken down into 3 broad categories: the foundation tier, the growth tier, and the advanced tier if you really want to excel. And I also have a bonus tip here, which at the end of the video I'd really like to share. And I'd like to know from you which category you think you'd fall into. Once you've been paid, should you save, invest, or pay off your debt? I think in school and in life we're taught to get good grades, get a well-paying job, and focus on your career. And don't get me wrong, that's all great, but we don't often get advice on what we should do once we've obtained that money. So in today's video, that's what I want to explore. Now, I don't think it can be argued that your first order of business should be building up a reasonable buffer of cash to act as your emergency fund. This can be stored in a simple current account or a savings account, but the key thing here is that it should be easy to access. Now, the exact amount you need is different for everyone, and it does depend on your own risk tolerance. For example, this could be a few £1000s, and what I do for myself may be completely different for someone else. It may not be the most impulse thing to do once you've been paid, but this really is building up a solid foundation for yourself, which will give you peace of mind. And if we have learnt anything over the last few months, life will throw curveballs at you, and you need to put yourself in a position to shoulder those unexpected costs that suddenly come up, and it stops you from resorting to borrow money or taking out a loan. Having this pot of cash ensures that you won't get derailed from your longer term investing goal, and it will keep you on track. If you don't start with having this as the priority, you're balancing your financial well-being on quicksand. One thing you may be thinking is that paying off debt should be first. Now, that does have some merit, but you also need to be psychologically set knowing that you have money in a complete emergency, and you won't need to worsen the current situation by taking out more debt. This brings us on to our next priority: paying off high interest debt. Although gains compound, losses compound too, so getting this under control is so critical. I think it's quite sad that we accept debt as the norm. Now, for high interest debt, I would categorize this as anything between 7 to 10%, or even more. The worst thing about this is that it really knocks your monthly income if you have high interest debt chipping away at that. It really restricts how much you can save and the ability to do other things with your money. Focusing on eliminating high interest debt is the best thing you can do where possible, and the biggest debt tends to be credit card debt. If that is the bulk of where money is being lost, you want to focus on fixing that issue. If you're struggling with this, then for now forget about investing and focus on getting this under control. There is also low interest debt, which we'll talk about slightly later in the video. Now, the next step is matching your pension contribution that your employer is offering you for your retirement funds. This means that any money you contribute, your employer will also match the same amount of contribution towards your pension. The good thing about this is that you're making a 100% return on your investment, and it's essentially free money, and you do not want to be leaving that on the table. This is something that you have to do every single year, and it's not something that you can claim back on. In the UK, this is known as pension contribution matching, and in the US it's called the 401k. So different countries will have different names for this scheme. So if you're not too sure, it's best to speak to your HR department at work and make sure your contribution is being matched. And depending on where you work, that percentage may be different. So some firms may offer higher and some workplaces may offer lower. The next step is having an additional savings fund. The amount of freedom and peace of mind you'll have by having a few months of expenses saved up in your bank account cannot be stressed enough. This will give you the stability and clarity knowing if you were ever to lose your job or if you couldn't work, all your expenses could technically be taken care of. This buys you time to find alternatives without rushing into anything, or needing to borrow money or relying on credit cards that incur debt. A few simple things you can do right now is by writing out what your fixed expenses are alongside your other costs, so like your variable costs. Total that up and find out what that number is per month. Multiply that by a few months, and that could be 3 to 6. And then you'll know how much you need saved up. How many months you decide to pick is completely up to you, but obviously the more the better. But first, find out what your monthly costs are. So once we've reached this stage, we have pretty much done the groundwork and built up a very reasonable safety net for ourselves. The next step is investing money into shares, bonds, index funds, and all that good stuff, but within a tax efficient savings account. Here in the UK, this is called an ISA, and in the US, it's called a Roth IRA. The reason you want a tax efficient account is because if you don't, you'll usually have to pay capital gains tax on any profits that you make. But when you invest in an ISA or a Roth IRA, you will shield your profits from tax, because that account acts as a wrapper to protect your investments. So it's in your best interest to use these accounts. In the UK, the maximum contribution per financial year is currently £20,000. This is a step that you want to find yourself in, where you can make consistent investment payments that give you a return. So you want to start off with simple index funds or investing in blue chip companies that have good financial track records. Low debt tends to include things like student loans and car loans. Despite from a financial perspective, this debt may not be hurting you that much, but it is advisable to get rid of debt in all its forms. Debt is often normalized, it's something that can easily get out of hand, and it can create a dangerous mindset of justification and to fund an elevated lifestyle that might be nice to have, but you don't necessarily need. Removing debt in all its forms is beneficial for both your financial well-being, but also your mental and emotional well-being as well. The next step is paying off your mortgage. This is something that's very much optional, and I would stress there are a lot of factors to consider first. Like, how many years do you have and have left on your mortgage? How much equity do you have left? And how long do you have your fixed rate for? Is it coming to an end soon, or will you need to remortgage your home? With all that being said, if I had a mortgage, I probably wouldn't put off investing and would do it at the same time, so they're both in parallel. I wouldn't focus all my money on paying off the mortgage because these are long-term commitments. If your mortgage allows you to do this, you can make overpayments, and that can save you money on interest in the long run, but this depends on your mortgage and if it's flexible, so you would need to check the terms and conditions as to whether early repayment charges are allowed or if it's limited at say 10%. By delaying your start in investing in the stock market, it does limit your chance to take advantage of compounding growth through consistent investing. And obviously paying off your mortgage comes with so many benefits. So can you imagine living in your home mortgage free? And is there anything better than having that feeling? So this point is largely dependent on your own situation and what you personally find will give you peace of mind. Now finally, this last tip is more of a bonus tip. This is to put money towards yourself to improve skills and your own personal development. There's always ways to save and invest, but investing money into yourself to build a higher skill set can allow you to earn more money, and that could be the best decision that you ever made. So this could be things like in the form of extra education, courses, and just general reading. And there's lots of free resources online that you can use for that. Dedicating and investing time into yourself could be the best investment you will ever make, and that could result in you increasing your value and income potential. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you for watching. If you'd like to learn more, you might like to check out my other video over here.